Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Altcoin Mentors YouTube channel. My name is Peter. I'm going to be doing our daily crypto coin updates. So we'll start off with Bitcoin. The trend for Bitcoin for the long term is still negative. I know a lot of people got excited over the last couple of days because it bounced off of a seemingly support level around 6,000. It went above 7,600. It cleared. But then it ran into a problem when it got close to the 200-day moving average, which I said a few days ago is a very important number for technicians. And so it hit that number or came close to it, and then it started coming back down, and it lost about $700 since then. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like calling tops or bottoms. I tend to follow trends. Calling a top or bottom, just like I said last week when someone called the bottom at 7,600, is that these bottoms can be fickle because the volatility for Bitcoin is so immense. So when something goes up from 6,000 all the way up to 8,000, we think that's a trend change because it's a significant amount percentage-wise. So people say, oh, it's 33%. They use a Fibonacci code. They use all these things. The problem is that there's never really been anything like Bitcoin and all the cryptocurrencies. In my 20 plus years of trading futures on indexes and Forex, it's really hard because the volatility is so big. So until you really understand basically what is the ATR, the average true range for a daily bar, or for if you're a swing trader or if you're a intraday trader, when you see that the move was 2,000 points from the top to the bottom, that seems like a very big move. But for Bitcoin, it's really not that big of a move. So you can't think of it in terms of percentages anymore. You have to really think about it in terms of the average bar size on a daily basis. Is it really abnormal? So the range for the $2,000 range that we had the other day is not that abnormal. For other things, it would be a 33% move, sure would be. But for Bitcoin, it's really not. So we still hold a long-term bearish trend on Bitcoin. And same thing for our swing traders out there. So when we look at our medium-term trend, it's still very negative. It was coming back up. But until our wave indicator tells us that the trend has changed, we're not taking any long positions. Right now we have a color change on our 4-hour charts on Bitcoin, and if it confirms actually below 7,600, we might actually take a short on this one against the trend, against the the views of a lot of other people. We would take a trend. Probably the entry would be around 7,500. So we're still neutral here, and we're waiting for a change. So let's talk about our short-term outlook for Bitcoin. So this morning, I set up a video talking about how the short-term trend changed from a neutral to a buy. Currently, it's still a buy signal, the short-term trend, but it's about to enter neutral territory. If it closes below 7,600, it'll go to neutral. And if it closes below 7,200, it'll probably go back to a short. And so short-term trends are very, very fickle. Over the last a month or so, ever since the long-term trend changed on Bitcoin from neutral to a short, the short-term trend has probably changed 2 or 3 times since then. So sometimes it can take a day, sometimes it can take 2 days, and it can be very, very fickle. So that's why I put up the charts and put in little like warning zones. So this morning I said that yes, I'm going to take a long trade, but because it's getting close to the 200-day moving average, the 200 range for the hourly as well, right? I put up the chart here, this little orange section. I called it the warning zone. And so today you'll see it. It hit the warning zone twice. And then it started to turn around. And that's why as it was going higher and higher, we entered in at 7,600. As it was going higher and higher, I kept on trailing it. I updated our trailing stops on TradingView. And I answered a couple questions from a couple of our viewers about where our stop should be. So my last stop on this one actually was at 79.50. I'm going to change that because in the morning it was at 7,900, and we actually ended up getting kicked out right around there. So we actually ended up getting kicked out over here. So we have put it at 7,900. Then when it went a little bit higher, we moved it up a little bit. We thought it might go well. It hit the warning zone again, changed color, and then this time 7,950 was our trailer, and they ended up kicking us out. So we're okay with that because, like I said earlier in the morning, that anytime you're going against the medium-term and long-term trends, you should be grateful and lucky to make money. So unlike other people, we feel like the trend is still negative medium-term and long-term. So let's talk about Ethereum, and there's some big news on Ether. So for the first time in a long time, the long-term trend has changed from positive to neutral, and then today, with the failure of the breakout to the upside, our wave indicator has indicated that today, February 7th, the long-term trend has changed to negative for Ether. And this kind of makes sense, and I'll tell you why. So for Ether, same thing, our medium-term trend changed recently, at the beginning of this month. So when you look at Bitcoin on our long-term charts, you'll see that in our medium trend changed to the sell side on January 10, and our Bitcoin long-term trend changed about 6 days later. So this time around on February 2nd, the medium trend changed to negative, and then today on the 7th, about 4 days later, 4 or 5 days later, it changed. The long-term trend followed suit, and now it is in the negative territory. So here, same thing. Since our medium-term trend change is down, it's actually below the 50 EMA, and we're looking at a support level around a resistance level around 790. Well, it's a kind of support. If it breaks this little barrier here and it gets to a level about 740, we'll probably take a short on a swing trade, just like we did up here at about 930. So the other idea too on a medium-term trend is that you see that the waves. So this wave really hasn't finished clearing yet because we don't know where it's going to go into the future. We don't really make predictions like that. But as you can see here, you have a little bit of a higher high here, higher low. But then all of a sudden you have a lower low. Then you have a lower low. You have a lower high. You have a lower low. And then if this starts to turn around, we're also going to get a lower high. And then that is a continuation, right, to the downside. So let's talk about our short-term trade today. So our short-term trend in the morning changed to buy. And currently, it's actually at neutral. It's below the 50 EMA. So let me make a note of that right now. I'll update it live. All right. So we have a short-term trend change to neutral. That's why, same thing in the morning, we talked about as it was getting closer to the 200 EMA, that was the warning zone. Our profit target was up a little bit above the warning zone. And so it never really made it to the warning zone like Bitcoin. It basically hit resistance up a little bit. It popped up. People started to get excited again. And then it popped right back down. And currently, the price is below the 200 EMA, and so our short-term trend has changed to neutral. So let's look at Litecoin. So our Litecoin long-term trend is still negative, nothing new there. Our Litecoin medium-term for swing traders is also negative. So same thing here. Right now, the price is below the 50 EMA on the 4-hour, and so if it breaks below 135, 137, it looks like, we should get a short signal to the downside. And our target then would be in between 124 and before the double bottom at 106. And then now let's look at our short-term trade. This was actually a pretty good one for us today. Our short-term trend changed also. All three of them pretty much changed at the same time to a buy signal. We took the trade, but unlike the other ones, Litecoin actually took off a little bit at a faster rate. It hit our target of 154.50, and we got kicked out. And as you can see here in my notes, in the earlier video, I said that I was actually waiting for a re-entry, that this had changed color, and if it cleared up to the top, I would actually go long up over in this level, probably around 156. But it never did that. It's a fail. It started going back down, and now, as you can see here, the trend, right, because it's hit below, I'll mark that as well, right, the trend, just short-term trend, changed back to neutral. If it goes below here, closes and confirms, a short-term trend might change over to negative territory, and then once again we'll be taking shorts. So hope this video helps you out. It's been a up and down day for Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ether. Hope this helps. That all you have to do is remember the motto: the trend is your friend. Thank you.